Hi, Neroli. I am so
Elena.
glad that, hello there. I'm so glad that you could join us for the show.
Thank you. I'm very excited to be with you.
Good. Your debut novel, The Perfumer's Secret, is a thrilling book, a page turner, a feast for the senses. It's a love story to southern France, the region in and around Grasse, where the Med meets the Alps. It's also a love story to French culture, craftsmanship, and tradition. And finally, it's a love story between two very different people. You've got a dynamic plot and a sublime setting. Reading your book made me want to move to this region of France where time seems to stand still in a good way. The French Tourism Board should be thanking you. I don't want to give anything away in our chat, no spoilers, but listeners, here's what I can tell you. Neroli's book centers around a gutsy young Manhattan-based documentary maker named Zandy, who turns her lens on a legendary perfume maker in the south of France that happens to be celebrating its 300th anniversary. Zandy has been assigned this story by her boss. She's not thrilled about what looks like a puff piece, only to discover there's a lot more to this perfume house than pressed flowers. A dashing CEO to start, and a family history that doesn't smell so fragrant. The story is not black and white. The truth doesn't always tell the whole story, which is one reason I love this book. Neroli, let's start by discussing the themes of The Perfumer's Secret. How would you describe the book's theme?
Well, first of all, thank you for that amazing description. It's really amazing to have your own book, like to have you read it and just really understand the things that I love so much, this particular corner of France and the tradition of craft here. And you really captured that. So thank you so much for that. That's actually a real gift. I think the central theme of the book is that there's no such thing as a single truth. Everybody has their own truth, and the truth is made up. It's a sort of multifaceted version of everybody's story.
Very good. That makes sense to me. It's funny, I was thinking even at the very beginning of the book, so I'm not giving anything away, when Zandy is having her little fling with Luke, he says something like that there's so many different ways to see the world. He's talking differently, but it was like, oh, this sort of echoes, or there's so many truths, maybe he was saying.
That was quite intentional to actually drop that at that part of the book, to just kind of hint at the theme to the reader. I mean, you're always trying as a novelist, you're like a kind of puppeteer. You're trying to sort of do things behind the scenes and hope that they come off. So you got it exactly right. That was like dropping a little bit of the theme in for the reader's subconscious mind to start thinking about.
That was good. You wrote in your newsletter that some writers spend their life building up to the novel they were meant to write. Do you consider The Perfumer's Secret the novel you were meant to write? And how did your life before this book prepare you to be a novelist?
Well, I've done a lot of things on the way to writing this book. I was a journalist for many years. I wrote for all the great British newspapers, the Times, the Sunday Times, the Daily Telegraph, the Guardian, the Evening Standard. I've been an investment banker and a commodity futures trader. I've traveled all over the world. I'm the proud mother of two wildly spirited daughters and an adventurous stepson. And what that adds up to is I have been training my whole life to do this work, and I'm now living the life of my dreams. So to answer the first part of your question, is this the ultimate book? I mean, I think it was the book I was meant to write then, because, it's 2 years in a publishing process. And for me as a writer, I'm constantly raising the bar of where I want to be. So I think it's a balancing act between being content with the work that you put in the world and actually slowing down a minute and being happy with the work that you've done and celebrating that. And for me, at the same time, learning to write character is something I'll be doing, please God, for the rest of my life. There is no way to master this. It's a never-ending journey.
So did you always know, though, when you were young, oh, I'd love to be a novelist?
I did, but I didn't dare take the step. I mean, I think two things. You can't pay the bills as a novelist. So, I mean, not unless you're, I don't know, Kristen Hanna or Emily Henry or Colleen Hoover or somebody. But maybe back then in my 20s and 30s and 40s, it wasn't quite the right time for me. I mean, I knew because reading books made me feel alive in a way that nothing else did. Perhaps only my beloved family. But then it's a long journey to have the courage to pursue that. There's a lot of why me and can I do this and so on. But I do think I always knew. And I think what I've learned most from this experience, not just of writing, I mean, I've written 3 novels and I'm just beginning my 4th now. This is the first one to be published. But what I have learned is certainly in terms of publishing the book and now engaging with the world with my work, I really have learned, follow your spark. If you have a certain spark, listen to it. You don't have to have the path to get there. You take one step and the path appears. And for me, it was a very long journey.
I love it. Great. Thank you. Back to the book. Would you mind just reading a passage from an opening scene?
Oh, I'd love to do that. Thank you. So this is exactly where the book opens. And we're in the voice of Zandy, the protagonist. She's a young documentary filmmaker, aged 30. Can I pitch? Yeah. I stand facing Stuart, and he shunts his chair back. As he swings his feet up onto the desk, I get a whiff of aftershave and starched cotton shirt. I'm booking 24 months out, he says. Your climate, your change. I speak slowly to enunciate my words. 3 minutes max. I'm starting my watch. I focus on his bushy eyebrows and black Mad Men glasses. The story is how each of us can save our planet. Nice. Adrenaline burns through me. His corner office is quiet with tons of light and space. I thrust the sleeves of my oversized white shirt above my elbows. I've got 2.4 minutes of Greta Thunberg, up close, speaking to camera. He's going to bloody love this. He rests his head back in interlaced hands, his lips part. How do you get that? I tell him about the conference in Queens. I open the stall door, step towards the bank of sinks, and she was 6 inches to my right, like grey and tiny with those mousy braids. Okay. I had lighting and acoustics right there in the bathroom. I stood her against the white tiled wall, yanked out my camera and rolled. Impressive. My body is alight as though I'm standing in a forest fire. You got the treatment? Of course, it's in the bag. I hopped from foot to foot. She was all sound bites, like 30 football pitches of tropical forest to cut down every minute. He can't refuse. He nods. I'll take a look sometime. My mouth parches. Sometime? What about your kids? Don't you want a planet for them to live on? Thank you, Zandy. It's a catastrophe, and we're pretending it's not happening. Zandy, I don't have a slot. I stand dead still. You'll make one. He raises an eyebrow at me. I'm sending you to the south of France. Sorry? Settle down, Zandy. I mean, it's something about the D-Day anniversary. A 90-minute profile of a French perfume house. I laugh. What, like supermodels on Russian yachts? Zandy, listen up. They've got the 300th anniversary in September. That's our hook. You're joking, right? Perfume sells. It's glamour. Mess this up and you are in trouble. He looks me up and down as though I've got ketchup on my pleat-fronted twill pants. Is there something else, Stuart? I play with the brass buckle of my old leather belt. Get some decent clothes. Grass isn't a desert war zone. You are not Kristen Scott Thomas, and this is not the English Patient.
That's great. Thank you. That was good. That was great. I love your accent for Stuart.
He came out very Southern, didn't he?
It was good. Southern. Why did your mother choose to call you Neroli? And how fitting that perfume began with a woman named Princess Nerola.
Yes. Well, my mother was a trailblazing, extraordinary woman who, in the 1940s, began trading essential oils. Those are the oils which come from pressing flowers. Oh. And it's rather a sweet story. She wanted to be a journalist. And her father, so she started off in journalism on Fleet Street. That's where the newspapers are in London. And her father saw her coming out of a pub and he said, that's it. No daughter of mine is ever going to be a journalist. And he placed an advert in the Times for a secretary offering her services with fluent French and German. And she was hired by a trading city, Fierce Brothers, in the city of London. That's like Wall Street. And she soon became their top trader. And by 1949, the bank had come to her saying the business was in trouble and would she buy the business, which she indeed did. And she traveled all over the world trading commodities all through my childhood, taking me hither and thither, including to Grasse. And she was a really remarkable woman, sort of a bit like Margaret Thatcher. But why was I called Neroli? Well, I mean, in fact, in the trade, I'm a twin, and she sold a lot of lemongrass, and the trade press says, Mrs. Eileen Day Lawson has given birth to twins. Surely they're going to be called Citronella and Lemongrass, which luckily we weren't. We were called Neroli and Virginia. And Neroli is named for, as we say in the United States, or named after, as we say in England, Princess Nerola from a province in the north of Italy. She was the Duchess of Bracciano, and she used to perfume her gloves and her love letters to the princes of the courts around Europe with this incredible bitter orange blossom, which is called Le Bigarade or Bigaradia in Latin, and Neroli is its common name. So she's thought to be the founder of the use of perfume in the West, and that's why my mother called me Neroli.
This book was meant to be. I mean, you had to write it.
Yes, I think it was meant to be.
You're right?
I think it was.
That's a great story, and what an impressive woman. So, back to the book again. I wanted to say not only was this book really fun to read, but I learned a lot. You have so many intriguing facts. I had no idea that one's sense of smell is 10,000 times stronger than any of our other faculties. And that, on a different note, that there's a museum dedicated solely to violets in Tourette-sur-Loup, a medieval village in the foothills of France where your novel takes place. Can you tell us about the research involved in this book?
Yes, the research was fantastic. I mean, I am bookish, so I did start with books, with huge piles of books. And I read about Taputi, 1200 BC from Mesopotamia. But I read all the way through to modern day perfumes, the celebrity scents, the signature scents, and the artisan houses and the big commercial houses. But then also part of it was we do spend a lot of time we have a holiday home in this incredible corner of France, just 20 minutes down the road from Grasse. There's a special microclimate here, which allows all these wonderful flowers to grow. So partly it was living here and sort of learning about the traditions of pressing flowers and so on. And then I remember there's a big company on the hillside of Grasse called Victor Mann Company. And I remembered that my mother had taken me there as a child. So we asked if I could visit the factory and learn more about the process of making perfume. Anyway, they're very secretive. And they said, no, I couldn't, even though they've been doing business with my family for, 50 or more years. So I was a bit annoyed. But in a way, it made it more intriguing because I started to kind of imagine what was behind those closed doors and behind those windows. And that made it really quite fun. But something really quite amazing happened, which was well into the book. like many years after we started to come to this part of France, we were told about a lovely restaurant. It's a very small hotel. It's a family house that's been turned into a restaurant called Les Jasmins. And we went there for the first time. And suddenly it came back to me that my mother had taken me to this house as a child. I remember arriving in the dark, in the rain. And this was the restaurant that we now love so much, was the former family home of this family perfume business in Grasse, the one that I mentioned earlier. And then, wait for this, they had these beautiful terraces. And for many years, they've been growing jasmine on those terraces. And a few years before we went to the restaurant for the first time, they changed the jasmine and they now grow neroli on those terraces. It was like,
oh, wow.
Just amazing. It was as though the book was meant to be, really.
Yeah.
I do think that writing a novel is pattern making, and it's making patterns out of disparate things. So for me, there was a lot of meaning, really, making that connection to my late mother, sort of making a love letter to her, to the region, to the craft, and so on.
Which came first, the idea of the novel or having this holiday home in Tourette-sur-Loup?
Yes, very much the home. And we were living, if you can believe it, in Minneapolis, Minnesota. My husband's work took us there, which was, I grew up in Kensington in London. It was a very, very foreign place to me. And it was Arctic cold. And we were raising 2 small daughters. So it was absolute madness to buy a holiday home in the southeast corner of France, near the border with Italy, where the mountains come down to the sea. It was bonkers, but it was love. And so we did buy this home. And we used to come basically just at Christmas. When the girls were small, we couldn't leave the school year and so on. But the more time I spent here, the more deeply, it was, in French, they say un coup de foudre. It's like love at first sight. And then the more time we spent here and we hiked in the mountains and we got to know the ways of the old stone village and the crafts and the slower pace of life and the traditions. And I realized that I had to write a love letter. I'm in love with mountains. So I look out at the Alps behind me and I had to write a love letter to this landscape. And that's how The Perfumer's Secret came to being.
God, I love it. Was the novel inspired by any particular story or not really?
No, I don't think so. It was inspired, as I said, by this landscape and by wanting to write a love letter. And then I had to figure out what kind of a story I could tell. And I think you learn how to write a novel and what you want to write about as you go along, or I certainly did. It wasn't something that came sort of fully formed. I remember it was several years into working on this draft that I came up with a secret. I had not planned a secret. So I put myself on a regime of 2 pages a day. I mean, you can't call yourself a writer if you don't write 2 pages a day, right? So I put myself on this regime, 2 pages a day, which sometimes is hard because what are you going to write about? You've got to understand what your process is. So one particular day, it was a busy day. We were on a train up the East Coast to Connecticut to see my daughter at school. And I hadn't written my pages and I was tearing my hair out, saying to my husband on the train, I don't know what I'm going to write about and I can't go to bed before I've written these 2 pages. And he said, a secret. You've got to put a secret in there. And it was really fun because he's read 1,000 mystery novels. I grew up in England having read a lot of literary fiction, which has got not much of a story in it. And it was such fun to hear his ideas about the engine of story and turning pages. And so he gave me a few hints and I sat down. I mean, it's writing such a solitary process. It's really fun to share it, especially if you have a husband who's excited about it like mine is. And so I can actually remember that moment when the secret came into the story.
You know, I love that because it was definitely a love story to all the things we've talked about, but it had pace. There was always that plot. You know, I was like, what is going on? What is being hidden here? Thank Roger, your husband, who I've met. That was a very good comment. Very good. And also you mentioned how, you keep on wanting to create character that's something that is a challenge that's never, it's always there. And I wanted to say, I really loved all your characters. And I wanted to discuss, to start off with Zandy, the filmmaker, and Dominique, the reserved and dashing chief executive of Severin, the perfume maker, that Zandy's making a film about. How easy was it to come up with those two characters?
Yeah, for me, I don't think anything comes fully formed. It's a sort of incremental process of putting your bottom in the seat every day, as we say as writers, and just allowing the characters to come to you in increments. I mean, I do remember a moment with Zandy, the filmmaker, where I was looking around for a photograph to see if I could find a photograph online that would inspire me as to what she looked like. And I found a picture of Kristen Scott Thomas in The English Patient. And, she's wearing a crisp white shirt and she's got this buttery, soft leather jacket and she's got this gorgeous chestnut waves that sort of hang in a bob. And to me, Kristen Scott Thomas is the sort of ultimate in cool. She's this English woman who lives in Paris and she just looks like she's got everything together. I mean, she's probably some major depressive who bites her nails or something, but she's got that amazing look. And I just felt this sort of spark, and it matched I'm a terrible romantic. So I always knew that Zandy was a big romantic and that she went into documentary filmmaking thinking she was going to be, flying across the desert in a Jeep with her hair sort of in the wind and covered in sand. And because that's how I go about life, is seeing everything in a romantic way. So the two came together and then I started to feel kind of excited about her. And then after that, you can layer on all the little sort of quirky habits and so on. But that was sort of, I remember a moment when Zandy came alive for me. As for Dominique, the very reserved heir of the 300-year-old perfume house, there is somebody in my life who is extremely reserved. And it was always very annoying. I mean, I'm a very open person. I open my mouth far too much, but I find it difficult when people really don't show their cards. And I always found it very difficult, this person who I loved, who wouldn't really, talk about anything that was close to his heart. So I started to imagine what it would be like to be the son and heir of this perfume business, to have so much responsibility, to have so much on his shoulders. And he has this alcoholic mother, so he's an adult child of an alcoholic. And to try and think about what that would feel like for him. And so in the process, I ended up having a lot of compassion for him. And I ended up, I think, understanding and loving this person in my life even more through the experience of writing Dominique.
Oh, beautiful. Beautiful. I thought you were maybe going to model Dominique after Ray Fiennes. So the English Patient. No, that's beautiful. Yeah. So you have several colorful, smaller characters. Lamar is Zandy's boxing coach in Brooklyn, a mentor of sorts. He tells her that if she wants success in life, she must plan and train. What did he mean by that?
Well, boxing I had to do quite a lot of research about boxing. Zandy loves to box. That's her sport. And I don't box. But what he meant was you have to do the drills. He meant that you don't enter a fight unless you are completely trained. You don't reach beyond yourself. You have to take the fights with the smaller people until you're ready to do the bigger fight, that kind of thing.
Okay. It was good advice. And then another character I loved was the elegant Jacqueline, the nose of the Severin perfume house. Can you tell us how one becomes a nose and how rarefied a profession it is?
It's a very rarefied profession, and you have to go to school and you have to learn a tremendous amount. I think she did a degree in chemistry or biochemistry or something like that. Her father was a famous nose before that. So you have to learn a lot about science, but you also have to train your sense of smell. And I think you have to be careful with what you eat and not eat things that are you don't have too much salt, and that you train almost like you're learning to taste wine. I mean, it's really, you devote your life to it like an artist to become a nurse.
And then the last person I wanted to talk about was Zandy's documentary boss, Stuart, who you just imitated so beautifully, who dangles the promise of Zandy making a documentary on climate if she will just follow his orders on the perfume story. How would you characterize him? I was just going to say ethics don't seem to be a part of his makeup.
Yes. I mean, I think it's pretty tough being in the media these days, isn't it? I mean, I think there are so many commercial pressures, and the world is changing so much with social media and podcasters and so on. So I was trying to show the complexity of that.
Yeah, very hard. Very hard. The way things can just get turned on a dime, and it's all about your followers. And I felt for Zandy. I was wondering if you have any collaborations in the works?
With other writers, are you saying?
No, possibly with a perfume house, anything?
Oh, yes. Well, I am talking to an incredible perfume house in Grasse, and I'm really hoping that they want to sell my book in a box set alongside a bottle of their amazing perfume. So
fingers
It's
crossed.
taking a lot of, yes, fingers crossed. I have to go to Grasse sometimes and talk to them, which is a lovely thing to do. Actually, I'll tell you a little story about that.
Yes.
The last time I went to see them in Grasse, we live sort of pretty much in the country. And so I took a taxi over to Grasse with a man who we've known for a long time. He doesn't speak a word of English. And so I showed him the book, which is in English, and he got very, very excited about it, even though he can't read a word in English. And then he wrote to me about 4 weeks later saying that he had presented the idea of my book to the local the person in our village who runs the Violet Festival. He's quite an important figure in the village, and that this man was dying to read it and couldn't wait for me to present my book. So I wrote a little WhatsApp to my children, telling them this silly story. And Vivi, my youngest, said, "Go for it, Mum. Taking the world by storm, one taxi driver at a time." It was very sweet.
That's very sweet. But I mean, they should be promoting your book throughout Grasse.
I hope so.
Yeah.
We're talking, yes. In fact, my book was presented to the mayor of Grasse last week, so he's very excited to read it. I have been quite busy with the launch in the United States and also in the UK. And as a debut novelist, I had no idea how much work was involved in, straddling different countries. So I haven't done much yet locally. I'm hoping in September, when I'm back, to do more of a sort of launch in France, and it'll be really fun to see my book.
Will it be translated?
That I may do as well. I hope so, going forwards. But there also there's an enormous population of English people who have a love affair with France, who come on holiday in France, who have holiday homes here, and who would like to read something about the region before they come.
Yeah. What was the book about Provence?
What was A Year in Provence, the Peter Mayle. Yeah.
Yeah. No, I think that it should be definitely translated. I mean, I know the English people love it, but I think French people would love it too. That don't speak
thank you.
English.
That's very nice. That's very nice.
Pleasure. Now, I understand you're working on another book called The Vineyarder's Secret.
Yes, I'm working on the next one in this series called The Vineyarder's Secret. In fact, I just got back today from the very heart of Provence, in the area near Aix-en-Provence and Arles, where there are and I've been doing a little tour of vineyards. And I don't drink alcohol just because I don't really enjoy it. It doesn't relax me. But I feel that I really do have to taste some wine if I'm going to write a book about the Vineyarder's Secret. So my cousin's got a rather wonderful cellar, and he's been plying me with amazing wine all weekend, and I've been tasting it.
Oh my gosh. So do you have a plot, or is this more the research part?
I'm trying to shape the story while I do the research, it's so tempting as a writer. You get so carried away with the research. It's so interesting. And then it's so tempting to sort of dump the facts into the book. So you have to be quite careful. I'm trying to do the two at the same time, think about the story and then do the research at the same time, both visiting vineyards and reading books about wine. And Zandy will have a cameo role in this book. And it's going to be part of a series set in France. There'll be about 5 books. And the end of the series will be about Zandy. So I'm trying to trace. I'm not sure this has ever been done before. I'm really interested in the arc of a woman's life between 30, as she comes into her professional strength, and 40, as she comes out of her childbearing years, and sort of the choices that she makes between 30 and 40. So I'm going to use the series, partly like The Perfumer's Secret, as a sort of love letter to the different arts and crafts of France, but also with a peek at the reality of France today. It's not all pie in the sky. There are some tough parts as well. But the series, Zandy will have a cameo or larger role in each of the books, and we'll watch her develop from age 30 to 40. So I'm intrigued by that.
Wow. I wonder if Dominique will.
Well, you might just have to read the series to find out.
One thing I was going to say is, with what you did a great job with this one, is you didn't overload the history, the facts. You put them in little snippets, enough so I was like, wow. And then you just moved on, which was, it was very, it never got too heavy on any one thing. It was
Thank you.
varied. It was really good.
Thank you.
And so do you have a contract to write all 5? And that sounds like they'll take place just over those 10 years. It'll be interesting.
Yes, they will. I have to probably get a bit further along until I talk to the publisher about, I think she will take it, but until I want to have a little clearer idea. And then I've got 2 others coming through. The first novel I wrote, Which Way Love, which will be published, I think, in 6 months' time, and another book that needs quite a lot more work. That book's called After the Affair, and
great titles.
A lot of people want to know. Thank you. A lot of people want to know, what's your process for writing a book? And I think what's hard about writing a book is that you don't know the story, but you also have no idea what your process is as you start out in your early books. So you're learning what your process is at the same time as you're writing the story. And I think the first book sort of wrote itself. It was a bit more autobiographical. It was one of those first books that sort of comes straight out of the gate. So with After the Affair, the little story with that, my friend Anne Blakely said, right, we're going to fast draft our books. This is the technique and this is what we're going to do. So I'm like, okay, I'm all in. So we rented a cottage in Wisconsin. We were living in Minneapolis. And the deal was we had to write 20 pages a day.
Wow.
Or we weren't allowed to go to bed. So it was a huge amount of pages. So the day we arrived, Anne decided to divorce her husband. So she spent 10 days crying, smoking, and talking on the phone, pacing up and down. And I wrote 20 pages a day. I was so proud of myself. I wrote 210, that was the number of pages I'd written, in eyeliner on my forehead, and sent a picture back to my daughters back in Minneapolis. And it was an adventure in that I did explore my imagination, and I came up with all sorts of things that I probably would never have otherwise come up with. However, I spent probably 5 years trying to clean up the mess that I'd made of those 210 pages after that to shape it into a novel. So that was one step along learning what is my process as I write a novel.
How hysterical. So that was a very productive retreat for the two of you.
Yeah, well,
I'm guessing
for me, she got divorced.
Did she write a word? I'm guessing no.
No,
Wow.
I don't think she did, actually. She smoked a lot.
Yeah, right. Oh, that's hysterical. Well, last question. Can you recommend any book for our listeners?
Oh, I certainly can. Thank you for asking that question. Am I allowed to, actually? The
Yes,
last
you
two
are
books I've
allowed
read
to.
have just blown my mind. Okay, if you're only going to read one book this year, read Isola, Isola, by Allegra Goodman. Isola by Allegra Goodman. It's got a gorgeous cover. And it's set in 16th century Périgord, France, which I had zero interest in 16th century France. But believe me, this character will absolutely, you're going to go crazy for this character. And it's an amazing story. This is the novel that this writer has been working towards, I think, for the whole of her life. It is really fantastic book. I think it's going to be my favorite book of 2025. And the other book that I really loved a lot is called The Frozen River. I mean, this one's really rocking the Amazon bestseller chart, so you might have seen it. It's called The Frozen River by Ariel Lawhon, Lawhon. I'm not sure if I said her name right. And that one is about a midwife. Again, I never think I want to read historical fiction. I think I want to learn about how to live today. But these books totally tell us how to live today. And they're going to be characters you will absolutely love and adore. I think these are corkers books.
Fabulous. Yeah, Frozen River is definitely everywhere in my bookshop, but I have not heard of Isola. I'm going to check that one out.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you. Thank you. Well, that is it for my questions. Thank you, Neroli, so much for such great answers and stories. I think this is going to make a great episode.
Well, thank you, Elena. I just, your understanding of the book, your interpretation of it was really touching to me. It's amazing to have somebody else read your work and appreciate the things that you were trying to communicate. And also, it's been really, what's more fun than talking about books? So it's been really great.
Exactly. Thank you for listening to that episode with Neroli. Wasn't she great? Such positive energy and fascinating stories. That's one of the reasons I love doing this podcast. I meet the best people, talented storytellers. Who doesn't love a good story? That's it for today. See you in 2 weeks. Thanks.